Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CX Quick Tips. Remember, we're only going for about 10 minutes or so. So if you're actually joining us live online, make sure you're putting your comments in there. And also, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is what we're broadcasting on, make sure that you do that so that you can stay up to date on our announcements on when we have these CX Quick Tips. And oh, by the way, they're just about every week. And they're at this time, 1:05 on Tuesdays at Eastern time. Okay. And I have with me Omar L. Harris, which is a good friend of mine who I just loved when he is on anything that we do at CX Global Media, because his insights and depth of understanding and knowledge and wow, really just even the topics that we're talking about today, his connection and his inclusiveness in everybody's thoughts and perspectives, his deep understanding on what does it take in order to create a successful organization. And for us, who are part of CX, it's about, hey, how are we impacting and affecting the customer? So Omar, thanks for joining us on CX Quick Tips.
Jim, it's always a pleasure to be with you, my friend.
Okay, so now you, when you originally sent me information on what you wanted to discuss today, and I'm glad you did, is you talked about EDI, and I was like, well, that's the first thing I said. I was like, EDI, and it was like equity, diversity, and inclusion. Yeah, okay, so you and I had a little bit of discussion before we started recording here, and you said something about people often miss certain things within EDI. So what are people missing in regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion when it comes to the customer experience?
Well, the first thing is it can't be a trend. It has to be your modus operandi for how you do your business. So basically, there's a trend coming in about everybody trying to improve their diversity and inclusiveness and whatnot. But if you're not really willing to do the real work, then don't even jump on the train, because really this is really about how you truly enhance customer experience, because you have to reflect the customer. So reflecting the customer means if I look at if I'm doing business with a certain community and that community is not represented in my customer experience department, how can I possibly connect with that community? If I don't have those people on my team and giving them a voice to speak, then I'm not really including those voices when I think about strategies for customer engagement. And I have to represent the diversity of the community, unless I'm just selling to one particular group. But usually, the best way to make sales is to sell to as broad a group as possible, including variety of nationalities, ethnicities, backgrounds, values, beliefs. So the more you represent that in your organization internally, the better you're going to be able to actually serve those customers externally. So I think that's really something that I'm really passionate about right now, is really helping organizations begin to more effectively mirror the community and the customer that they are actually trying to serve.
Well, and when you're talking about that, I'm like, well, simple answer, complex issue. That's one thing that comes to mind. And then the other thing is, I also have to start thinking about the type of organization that you are. And what I mean by that is, if I'm highly transactional, I am not really, creating a whole lot of long-term relationships, because I don't necessarily worry about, that all too much. And I just let marketing handle it. Right. But if I'm looking for, referral, retention, continued share of wallet, those types of things, now this level of importance increases dramatically.
It's exponential. I mean, once again, and I would say to earlier, if you're not, even if you are transactional and you're not trying to have a relationship with your customers by any means necessary, that's a mistake. I mean, I think whoever owns the customer relationship is the one who's going to win at the end of the day. I learned that back when I decided to create my own publishing company. And you look at who owns the reader relationship. It's not the publishing companies. It's Amazon. Amazon has the customer information, not the publishing companies, which is why publishing companies had difficulty pivoting when the whole ebook thing came out, because they didn't have that relationship. So that's just one example of, you want to be as close to the customer today as possible. And if your model doesn't allow you to do that, then think about the model, because the first thing is to get close to customers. The next thing is to really reflect and to really represent them, including their causes. Whatever your customer base cares about, you also have to care about as an organization. It's not enough just to give lip service to it. You actually have to be involved and engaged with the customer in terms of causes as well.
As you're saying that, I, for myself, help with digital growth strategies. And that issue that you're talking about, as far as, who owns that customer relationship, is actually one of those particular areas that is getting a whole lot of attention because of the massive platforms that exist. You mentioned Amazon. Well, does Facebook really own your customer relationships? I mean, is it LinkedIn? You know, if you're B2B and you have massive presence there, and you have to really second guess that these days because, you know, companies are getting, um, well, downturned, shut off, cut off. I
Yeah,
mean, all kinds of
yeah,
things are happening, and
yeah.
owning that customer is a much bigger question. And then, so then you have to start thinking about this whole EDI and, well, who owns this customer relationship piece or employee relationship piece? Who owns the equity?
Yeah.
Who owns the diversity? Who owns the
Yeah.
inclusion component?
And I just wrote an article, Jim, that says, all these companies that are hiring, one of the hottest new positions in corporate America is the chief of equity and diversity. That position has grown exponentially in the last 2 or 3 years, and I actually think that's a mistake because it basically you're farming out the job that should have been owned by managers and by HR in the first place. Why do you need some special individual to come in and tell you what just makes sense for your business? I mean, you shouldn't need it. You shouldn't require it. If you are running a sales organization and your sales organization, let's say you're talking about a pharmaceutical company, and you're dealing with what I worked in Dearborn, Detroit, where in Dearborn, Michigan, where the majority of the doctors I called on were Indian. It might have been better to put an Indian in that territory because you could probably represent the customer better and have a better interaction and maybe make sales faster. So you have to think about all this stuff as you if you're really trying to enhance effectiveness. It's not just all the training and the coaching, but also your representation, your inclusion, how you treat your employees. Are they really being treated equitably? And are you truly not only diverse, but are you capitalizing on diversity, which means are you leveraging difference? That's
I,
the power of this.
Man, I love that you said that and opened up that doorway because here's the thing that we often do is when we have certain crisis that occurs or we have things now become an accountability, oftentimes we'll throw money at it and we'll do something like that, creating those positions. When if we were just to stop and think, the reality is that your leadership development and your leadership training programs probably suck, and that's why you have
Yeah,
the problem.
yeah. Yeah, you're not, it's not really inside of your value set. And just the same thing with digital transformation. Like I saw so many companies hire digital leads and multi-channel marketing experts, and they came in with all kind of fanfare and they left within 2 years because they were like, actually, you're not serious about making this happen. You were just trying to capitalize on a trend, put some nice words in your annual report, and then, keep it moving. If you're not really interested in transformation, then having a role or specific person named something is not gonna do anything. We talked about this all the time when I was in pharma, which was digital marketing is just going to be called marketing in a few years. It's just we're just making a nomenclature for this small period of time of transition, but actually it's just marketing. Marketing is just transforming to online, and that's all it is. But because the model was so face to face oriented, we had to create a whole different department to make the transition happen. And I disagree with that then, and I disagree with it now when it comes to what's happening in the equity, diversity, and inclusion space. Really, it comes back down to what we always talk about, Jim, which is leadership, managerial effectiveness. What you focus on gets done. What you incentivize gets done, and it's no more complex than that.
Yeah, and again, simple response, complex issue. And
Yes,
you and I
yes,
have even talked about this as well. And I'm getting ready to be on somebody else's podcast this afternoon. And the question for me as I continue to get older and I have the call center coach leadership academy for frontline and emerging supervisors and contact centers, and it's a blended learning system. It's
right.
continuous learning, right? And so part of even what we're talking about here is going to get fed back into the academy and those students
Yeah,
that are in there because it has to continue on forever.
yes. It
Um,
never stops. It never stops. The learning never ends. And this one is really it's a miss. It's not even a learning. It's not even a moment. It's a miss. The reason why we're talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion now is because we didn't talk about it 20, 30 years ago. It's just a miss. It's something that should have been done already. We shouldn't even be discussing this right now. But because it was missed and because it hasn't been leaned into yet, now it's the hot new thing. And so now we have to have these conversations. But it creates opportunities for people like me. But at the end of the day, it's up to the managers and what they really believe, and managers believing that difference is the key to innovation. The more difference you have, I can point out 1 million Harvard Business Review articles, and there's been 1,000 reviews, peer-reviewed articles on diversity and what it means to impact and innovation and creativity and outcomes. But if you as a manager don't believe it, having an EDI person giving you quotas is not going to make you believe it anymore. You have to really lean into that space and understand it, and then challenge yourself to be able to manage difference. And that's the key growth hack you have to learn how to do, is how to manage people who are different than you.
Oh, so true. Now, obviously, you and I could probably talk about this for the next 60 minutes, but we only promised 10, and I think we're already
Yes.
getting closer over that. So,
Yeah.
where can people connect with you?
OmarLHarris.com is my website, and also find me on LinkedIn. Omar L. Harris will be the best places to reach me.
And he's also a frequent contributor to CX Global Media. Omar, my friend, I've
Thank
enjoyed
you
it.
very much.
Thank you for
Appreciate
sharing
you.
your knowledge
Thanks,
and
Jim.
wisdom. Thanks.